Hi guys, Captain Foley here and Samuel Calkins again.
Hello, guys.
We have another special guest announcement for you guys, and we're really excited about it. I am personally, because
I know, Stuart. I know.
I watch this guest every week, well, almost every week, on his own channel on YouTube. So I would like to introduce to you Mr. Steve Neal.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Thanks for
Steve.
having me. Hi.
Nice to have you here. Thanks for joining us today. You've done a lot of work on Star Trek, prosthetics-wise, so we're going to ask you a few questions and get to know you a little bit better in case anybody that out there doesn't know who you are.
But Stuart is a fan, as he's just fangirled all over you pretty much. But let's say I don't know who you are. I do because you're our guest. But let's say I don't. Who are you and what's your involvement in Star Trek?
All right. Of course, my name is Steve Neal, and I've worked in motion picture visual effects to encapsulate it, and wearing many different hats for 40 years. And I've done everything from prosthetics to miniature work to working on stop motion animation and all kinds of stuff like that. Props, you name it, I've done it. Even produced and wrote my own feature film. So I've been busy. And one of the things I did is work on Star Trek.
So what was your specific involvement with Star Trek? What are the few things that you did design? I know you did Spock's ears for the motion picture. Anything else that you can remember?
Well, yes, I did Leonard Nimoy's ears for the first motion picture. So I was the first person to do those ears. I did an alien
The
for
big
the bridge.
budget is, as it were. Motion picture is.
Yes, well, and I worked on the background aliens a bunch. And then, of course, later on, I worked on Star Trek 6, and I worked also on, and I was doing Klingon prosthetics on that, working with Richard Snell. And went on to work on the pilot Counter at Farpoint for TNG.
Excellent.
And do you want to give us a brief of how you got into Star Trek? So,
How I got into Star Trek? The brief. I fell in love with it when I was in high school. I said, gee, wouldn't that be neat to come to Hollywood and actually meet those guys and work on those sets and everything? It was a huge dream of mine. By the time I got there in '74, that was long gone. And then I got to be friends with Fred Phillips. We all know who Fred Phillips is. Fred Phillips is the man who did the prosthetic, not the prosthetic, but the makeup in general on Star Trek, Outer Limits, and all kinds of great shows. He was a wonderful human being. He knew I loved Star Trek. I helped him get a job, actually, on a show in Hollywood. He never forgot it. And I get a phone call one day. Do you want to work on Star Trek? You know, and it was the motion picture. I thought he was joking with me. And the first thing he asked me to do was Leonard's ears. So that thing I wished and dreamed about back in high school actually came true thanks to this wonderful human being, Fred Phillips.
and you're pinching yourself every day just in case.
Well, it's still my greatest moment in my career. I mean, you know, I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm working on Leonard Nimoy's ear sculptures, and the shadow blocks my light, and I hear, "Are those my ears?" And I looked up. Yes, they are. I mean, I was, you know, talk about being geeked out, but there he was. He gave me this nice smile and said, "Very nice," and he walked off. And that was how I first met Leonard, under those conditions. So, you know, it's like something out of a movie, except it really happened to me. So there was really a moment in my history that, working in film, that is so near and dear to my heart.
You worked on the Star Trek Klingons for Star Trek 6. Do you want to tell us a little bit, briefly as well, about what it was like working on some of the most unique Klingon variations of foreheads, I think, in the entire franchise? I mean, they're really distinct, each different character. What was it like working on, what would they, almost the iconic Klingons of Star Trek?
It really, that was all about Richard Snell. He really wanted to do the Klingons. He wanted to make them different than they had been. And in fact, if you watch the little behind-the-scenes thing they did with Christopher Reeves of him, he talks about that. Have you seen it? It's a video where Christopher Reeves is on, and he talks about the work being done on the Klingons and Richard Snell. You should see it. It's been on the internet. I think if you go on YouTube, you can find it. But he wanted them to be different. He wanted them to be unique. And that was great because we kind of had a free hand. You know, we could just, you know, we're given all kinds of life castings, and we could kind of just go in there and go, well, let's see, what kind of Klingon are we going to make today? And Richard would come and either approve it or not. And funny thing is that you'll notice that in the film, there are Klingons that look a lot like the first versions of them in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. The same, like a real spine sticking out of the forehead, which was the original concept. I'm the one who sculpted those, and when I was doing it because I wanted to play tribute to Fred, because that was Fred and Gene's original concept.
Mm-hmm.
Richard comes in, he looks over my shoulder and he says, "What's that? I don't like that." And I told him, I said, "This is a tribute to what they had originally done in the first picture." He goes, "Oh." And ironically, in that video where it was done for the news, they show him put on a prosthetic. It was that very prosthetic. And you see it featured several times throughout the show. So I consider that a personal victory.
Excellent. So you also made a 6-foot TOS Enterprise from scratch, not for a show or anything, just for your own personal
Yes.
channel. How was making that? I know I've watched the whole thing, so I know all about it, but others might. You got any little stories or any interesting things about that you can tell us?
Well, it's a very long story. I'll try to keep it short. I was on the net one night, and I wanted to buy one of the big 66-inch Enterprises from Jim Keys at Custom Replicas. He wasn't making them anymore. Well, that's no good. I really want that. I've always wanted a big, beautiful model ship, so I decided to make it myself. I told Doug about it. He said, "Yeah, you should do that." And he was a big supporter in it. And he says, "I'll help you. And Mike will help you. And we'll get you all the stuff." And Gary helped me. I was allowed to use his plans, which no one's allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of skepticism whether I'd actually make it, go through with it, but I did. And it turned into a fantastic model. I sold a few kits, and then I stopped selling them because selling kits is very problematic.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really launched Steve Neal's Garage. And in fact, it was Doug Drexler and his undying support of what I was doing who coined the term and said, "Look, you should turn this into a real show, and you should call it Steve Neal's Garage."
Mm-hmm.
And that was Doug's idea. And then later he started to use a nickname, SMG, and that's how that kind of came about. So really, Steve Neal's Garage and my whole efforts into starting the studio and everything were all based on that beginning, building that ship. So that ship, I'm grateful to that ship on so many levels, but this is another level that I'm really grateful to it on. I mean, obviously it launched 1,000 other ships, scientists, astronomers, scientists, technology, and everything else, but it also launched SNG.
Yeah, well, that's great. And if you guys haven't checked out Steve Neal's Garage, look it up on YouTube. It's worth checking out for sure.
I think we're going to close out with the last little question. So you mentioned a little bit about TNG, but let's give them a bit of a tease. So you went around the sets. Give us one thing you love best about the TNG sets, and then we'll leave that for another episode.
One thing I love best about the TNG sets is that when you were inside them, you felt like you were on a real starship. They had ceilings, and they were meticulously built, beautiful and realistic. So once you went around the bend of the corridor and looked back, you felt like you were actually on a starship. That was an incredible feeling.
Awesome. Cool.
Excellent. Yeah, Doug even said he lived on the Enterprise for a while. He'd sleep on the medical beds and stuff. So it's very interesting to hear that.
Oh, yeah. He took it further than I did.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. We're going to have a bunch of episodes with Steve joining us, so look forward to those. We have many more great announcements coming up. As always, check out trekyards.com for all of our past episodes. And thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Captain Foley.
Samuel Cockings.
And our guest, Steve Neal, signing off until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.